Okay. Well, where do I even begin? Um, there are major moves all across the planetary grid. We have the um, the major high courts and the many United Nations bodies are all in a conundrum now. Uh, we have basically changed um, the entire way that certain aspects of the solutions, the planned solutions, uh, have to be defined, and the different parties of interest and inheritance have also somewhat shifted in that the relationships and the controlling law, the law having precedent, the law having um, the greater power, has been invoked and redefined in ways that will require taking a new view of such topics as who's indigenous, what does indigenous mean, uh, and then it goes then deeper into historical, genealogical, and ecclesiastical issues, such as uh, who really or what really are angels. And did angels exist on this planet before modern man? To what extent are the angelic nations, that is, those nations derived from the angelic stock that was here, differ from other humanoid populations? And are those characteristics good or bad in terms of the survival of the species? What effect has this had? What are the fruits overall of having these different populations all present on Earth, all living together for long periods of time, intermarrying and living essentially as if we were all the same, when in fact we're not. When in fact there are 5 different brainstem parent races, as I've explained before, and there are multiple human. We have mankind, we have humanoid, and we have angelic progenitor races that are also here, and it's all admixed. It's all, the singular species and subspecies still exist, but they're largely intermixed now, so that we're moving inexorably toward a more homogeneous expression of DNA that we share in common. And this is then leading to some very profound questions about the roles of the different groups. What can we contribute toward the betterment of the planet and each other? Now, it's a very interesting gamut of questions that, for the most part, nobody's even asked before. And it needs to be asked. I won't say it needs to be resolved at any specific date and time, but these are things that we need to be looking at in terms of the most mutual benefit that all these different parent races actually bring forward and bring together for the benefit of all. Now, one of the interesting things that's come up here is a very, very ancient Hopi Native American prophecy. And it basically recognizes 4 different races: the black, the white, the red, and the yellow. And they associate these with directions. For example, white is associated with the north, okay? And so at a specific time, which the Hopi prophecy identifies as a time when a strange blue star will be seen in a certain quadrant of the heavens. And for those who have been paying attention, the blue star appeared and it's clearly visible now. And so certain other milestones have been reached, and this summer there will be a meeting that was foretold by this prophecy of all the different races, and each will bring forward the results of work that they did in between when the agreement was first made and now when the time of the age is drawing to a close. And so the plan is that for this summer, there will be this historic meeting in Montana, and each one of the different groups will come forward and will be speaking to the results of their investigations and experiences that were assigned to them at the beginning. And so, for example, the delegation of the white population will be speaking to issues of technology and government and those sorts of topics at this conference. And each of the other groups have their specialty, their project or their work that they were assigned thousands of years ago to go out and then bring back the results of their experiences to share with all the rest. Anyway, this is actually happening, and it's happening spontaneously. It's not a do-it-yourself. It happened as a result of other things, and then all of a sudden people stepped back and went, whoa, hey, this is happening. And yes, so the prophecies are being fulfilled. Both the prophecies of the Native Americans are being fulfilled. The prophecies of the Bible are largely being fulfilled. And we're not always aware that they're being fulfilled at the time that it's actually happening. It's in retrospect when we look back and go, oh, hey, well, I guess that really did happen, didn't it? And so there's a lot of that going on right now, both in terms of ancient prophecies being fulfilled and people recognizing that they're being fulfilled right in front of our eyes. So it's a very interesting time to be alive. It's a very interesting time to be participating in these events and these discussions that are ongoing. I think that many people have been startled out of their complacency by information that is being revealed now. I think that it has come as a surprise that, yes, indeed, there are angels on earth And yes, there are entire nations of angels on earth, and there are small populations that dwell here on a continuous basis with different assigned missions and capabilities, call them gifts, that they are meant to share with the world. And so you have teachers, you have visionaries, you have healers, you have artisans and artists, you have technologists, if you will, like Elon Musk, and they come to this planet, and their goal, their life mission, while they're incarnate, is to share their gifts and to help humanity continue its progress in a safe way. So there are also warriors, warrior angels, who are here to maintain peace and to protect the population. And the numbers of these warriors were for a number of years very, very, very constricted, because this group of no-goodniks, this group of egotistical, arrogant, fallen angels had taken refuge here, and they were manipulating the processes by which we can enter the incarnate state. So they were preventing the warrior angels from actually incarnating on Earth for the past 300 years. And so there were very few who got through the net, so to speak, and actually were able to bring back reconnaissance on how the fallen were doing this and how we could undermine that system in a way that would allow more to incarnate here and to actually plan out and remove these rogue elements that have been creating this kingdom of lies and fraud and using it to unjustly enrich themselves and to basically murder and steal from mankind. So now we know that for the past 300 years, there's been a time when the father of all lies has just outdone himself in creating an entire world governance system and legal system that is built on lies and fraud. Legal fiction itself is a lie. It's not real. It is fiction, okay? And so all of this stuff is just satanic nonsense. It's not true. It's fraudulent. It's a system that has only existed by unconsciousness, people simply not knowing what was going on, and by omissions, where people who should have spoken up didn't, and by deceit and the use of the old Roman civil law, which, as I've often told you many times, has a provision that let him who will be deceived be deceived. So as long as we remained asleep and didn't raise our hands and expose the fraud, as long as we didn't flag the deceit and object to it, they got away with it. Well, so now we turned on our Shinola systems, and we kind of dusted ourselves off and said, hey, that doesn't smell right. And we started that entire process of objecting to the lies and the constructive fraud and the aggravated identity theft and the denigration of living men and women to the status of mere things, mere corporate persons, right? We've gone through this entire process of kind of shaking awake and saying, hey, wait a minute, that's not real. That's phony. That's false. That's not true. That's not me. And we've gone through this entire process that you've joined with me on. And so now we're getting to the point where there's a very definite change. And I just wanted to explain a few things. You're all familiar with radios and how, you can tune the channel in, right? You can listen to 97.3 KHFR, or you can tune the channel to 107.3 KRWO, right? You can tune in that station based on the frequency, right? Their exact little broadcast window. Well, something very similar is happening here and now on Earth. And I think people reading the Bible, and they get the idea that, the Earth, our Earth, is going to be saved from ruination, right? But the world, the constructs that men have created for their social conventions and their laws and everything, that will be destroyed. And there's a lot of reference to the new earth, right? The new thing that is going to spring forth. And I think it's telling that in Isaiah, it says, behold, I'm creating a new thing. Do you not perceive it? Right. Well, here's the deal. The new earth is a different frequency from the old earth, just like the radio station. You tune it in, right? In the old earth, relationships were based on fear and on incompleteness and on need. People formed relationships in survival mode. They would choose their husband or their wife the same way that they might choose a new car, getting the best model with the the fewest problems, and it would all be about incompleteness. It would all be about finding your other half. That's even how we spoke of it. You found your other half. You had this incomplete half of a self, and you went out and you found the person who could best complete these other needs, and you formed a union under this old system. And this is how you kind of struggled through life back to back, right? And underlying that was the fear that you wouldn't be able to do and be, and you wouldn't be complete enough to finish all the goals and responsibilities and duties. And there was also a lot of commercial concern, that you had to have enough earning power. You had to have a big enough combined credit score. You had to do everything based on fear and need. Okay. Well, that's the old station. They're playing, dirges and really scrungy punk rock. Okay, they're over there doing that. But now the new earth is leveling up, and in the new earth, people will be different. The frequency, the radio station, the kind of music, it's shifting over, right? And so if you're picking up on the frequency of the New Earth channel, then you are experiencing things you've never experienced. You are suddenly realizing that you're not half of something, you're an entire whole. You are already complete, you're already competent, you're already fine, thank you very much. And when you form relationships, it's because the people that you are attracting and that you're attracted to are in alignment with you. And so you have this fellowship and this natural attraction of like to like, and you all get along, and it's not out of fear, and it's not out of need. It's on this entirely different basis of free will and sympathy and alignment. And so it's all the relationships, the basis for relationships is changing. And this then changes culture, it changes society, it changes religious beliefs, it changes the law that you live under. Everything changes because this new radio station, this new frequency here, has a totally different basis than the old one. And we're in the middle of this transition where people are realizing that, oh, well, after having only one radio station to listen to all my entire life and only one basis for forming relationships with other people, suddenly there's this other radio station in town and I can tune my dial to that one. And over here, there's a whole different dynamic going on, a whole different way of living. And when this happens, you suddenly find yourself, and it feels like, you woke up and everybody else is kind of in a zombie state. They're all still asleep. They're all kind of operating on autopilot, right? They're getting up with the same assumptions that they've always had about this old world and everything that was part of it. And suddenly you're in a different space. You're listening to different music. You're having different sensations and realizations than they are. And it's very disorienting. It's like cognitive dissonance. You're in a different headspace than you've ever been in before. And yet everyone around you, maybe not everyone, but people that you've known all your life are still operating under the old assumptions and basing their relationships on the old basis. And suddenly it just feels like you don't fit in with them anymore, which can be terrifying. I mean, this is your family, this is your friends, this is your church, this is your school, this is, the whole matrix that you've lived in all your life. And suddenly you're grading against it, So it's a time of real stress for a lot of people. You still love all the people you ever loved, but you're finding that the basis for that was not what it should have been to begin with. And so everything is, in an odd way, dissolving around you. You have the same sorts of struggles with work that you've done. Say that you've had a job you've been in for 20 years and you've gotten along with it and you've done well with it and there was nothing wrong with your job. But then all of a sudden you feel this intense sense that it's kind of meaningless and that you're just kind of marking time and not contributing to the world doing this job. And suddenly you have this sort of compulsion that, hey, I should be doing something else. And then, sure enough, eventually that something else shows up, and suddenly you realize that, oh, I'm a healer, and I should be involved in this research instead of doing this. And so this then prompts you to get involved in new projects and new things, and going back to school maybe, or changing jobs. All sorts of change comes into your life because you've changed, and when you've changed, everything around you changes. That's just the way this reality is set up. So for those of you who are experiencing this, it can even go to the point of realizing that, yeah, you had a good marriage and it worked well in the old system. But now you're in a new system where relationships aren't based on need or incompleteness or fear or finances. And you have to look and say, is my spouse going to make it? Can they make the jump? Are they going to be, are they coming with me? Are they waking up? Are we going to be able to continue in a marital relationship? Because you've changed, or rather, you've gone to a different frequency. You're listening to that different music now, and so you're dancing to a different tune, okay? And it's pretty hard to stay with somebody if they're doing a foxtrot and you're doing a waltz, okay? It's really hard to keep relationships together when the foundation premises of those relationships no longer hold. And I think people are expecting that, the new world is going to just all of a sudden materialize in front of them, and it's going to be something like magic. Well, it is something like magic, but the new world isn't so much a place that you go to, except in your mind, in terms of how you think and what you're giving your attention to. You're choosing to listen to this new radio station, right? But you don't really go to this new earth. You become the new earth. You are it. Strangely enough, but so each one of us that makes that jump, that awakens, that realizes that the true and best way to form relationships has to be in terms of truth and common alignment and shared values and things of this nature, and not just, we have to hang together in order to make enough money to feed ourselves. Because that old paradigm is going away, and it's going away fast. And all these changes are coming at us very fast. And I'm just trying to give you some pointers and some things to think about and notice and realize, so that you have some orientation for the sort of change that's coming at you, and so that you can understand why this change is happening. I'm giving you the analogy of the radio stations so that you can kind of objectively step back a little bit and figure, well, where do I belong? Do I want to continue living in a world that's based on fear and greed and competition and need, deliberate impoverishment? Or do I want to go over here and live in a world that's based on brotherly love and abundance and a shared will to improve things and take care of the earth and be at peace? This is a choice. Once you wake up and realize that you have a choice, it's a choice. And, the world is what we make it. It's not just a matter of how we take it, though that's important too. We literally construct reality in ways that we don't yet fully comprehend. And so when we change, the world changes. When we ourselves change, when we adopt different values and we adopt different goals and we stop fighting ourselves internally, miracles happen. And I guess I'll just make a brief foray into the topic of cognitive dissonance between our values and our goals, because there's a lot of that going on too. It's not just a matter of frequency and base premises. There's also a conflict between our values and our goals that we need to narrow that and bring it back together so that our goals truly reflect our values. And I think that one of the ways to kind of use an analogy or an example, oftentimes when I'm out trotting around the world and I'm talking to people from different cultures, and they'll basically say the same thing that Mahatma Gandhi said, and that was that, gee, I love your Jesus, but the Christians not so much, because they don't follow Jesus. And this is, it's a painful and nearly ubiquitous example of how values conflict with goals, and so you wind up with mush. It's not one thing or the other. It's kind of a incongruous mishmash. People that say that their values are Christian and that they follow the teachings of Yahshua, and he says, give your brother your coat, give him your shirt, take care of him. And then you see people that claim they're Christian, that they are following these teachings, and then they say things like, why are you giving that beggar money? Hello? Why are you taking this person home and giving them a good meal? If you have this Christian value system, then your goal should not be to avoid it, to avoid the consequences of your values. If these are your values, then your goals should not be to avoid charity or to avoid opening up your heart. Okay, you see the non sequitur that happens there when your values say one thing and then your actual goal is to avoid having to carry through on your values. The same thing with work situations. Here you are, your stated values say that you're going to love your fellow man as yourself. But over here at work, you see an opportunity to undercut someone else's performance and take advantage of that to make yourself look good, to get a promotion. And you justify that in terms of, well, yeah, but my kid really needs braces, or whatever excuse that we have for these sorts of subterranean things that we do in order to promote ourselves and to get ahead, right? But that goal of getting ahead, climbing up that ladder, which requires us, or seems to require us, stepping on someone else's fingers, it's putting us in conflict with our values. And so this is another big theme that you're going to see unrolling in front of you is, are these really your values? And if they are, then the goal changes. And like I say, when you change, everything around you changes. When you change, it has an effect throughout the entire creation. So when you start bringing your values and your goals together and harmonizing them and making them actually fit, they create an energy that is subtly many times more energy is generated when the values and the goals are actually in sync. Then if you continue this business of saying that you have one set of values and then doing something else. And I think everybody can understand that, because when you have a separation between your values and your goals, a lot of energy just gets frittered away in the middle, in the conflict. But when your values do match your goals, then you've got a straight shot. You've got everything is lined up and it all flows together and there's no energy loss and you just make progress. So all of those sorts of inner conflicts, let's call them, are just as important as resolving the outer conflicts that also are erupting all around us. And let's face it, this is a lot of work. This is a lot of soul searching. This is a lot of what they call shadow work, where you look at, the things that are holding you back, the things that are interfering with your ability to express yourself and express what you really believe and express your truth. Okay? People talk about it in terms of, it's like you have your little angel on one shoulder and your devil on the other, or you have your little being of light, your little shining angel over here, and you've got your dark shadow over there. That's not really true. You don't fight your shadow. How do you eradicate shadows? You eradicate shadows by bringing light into those dark corners. It's not a fight. It's a revelation. It's a matter of looking at yourself and figuring out why you're in conflict, why you are not happy. What truth are you avoiding and why are you avoiding it? And oftentimes it just comes down to the fact that we have been hurt, we've been betrayed, we've been lied to, and we've suffered a certain kind of damage and trauma because of that. We want to avoid that, and we want to avoid being vulnerable as a result. We want to protect ourselves. We want to defend ourselves against having those kinds of experiences again, which is perfectly natural and reasonable. The problem is that every time that we protect ourselves and refuse to be vulnerable in a situation, we're blocking off the experience. Let me think of an example. Well, I guess the most common example is that if you're in love and you're not vulnerable, then you're not in love. Because it's sort of like if you're going to jump into the pool and start swimming around, the water has to be deep enough to swim, right? And it's the same thing with love and vulnerability. Yeah, you can call something love and it can be 4 inches deep, but you won't be able to swim in it. Okay? And so the experience isn't really there. And it's because you haven't been vulnerable enough. You haven't actually put enough out there. You haven't risked enough. You haven't taken that big gamble that's going to open up the floodgates and let you really feel and really experience love. So all of these things, these kinds of topics, these kinds of circumstances, we're all going to get hit with questions and ourselves questioning things that we may have never even thought about before. But believe me, these things are going to come forward. And as you continue the process of awakening, they call it, or, just kind of shaking awake and going, oh, yeah, well, hey, look at that. There's this kind of cascade effect that one thing leads to another. You may start examining the way you treat your coworkers, right? Or the relationship that you have with your boss, or the motivations that you perceive related to your career. And once you begin that process, you'll find that it connects like a spider web to all sorts of other things. Things that objectively, as you stand here thinking about it right now, have nothing to do with your work. You'll find that something that started out as an issue at work and with your coworkers then becomes highlighted at church. And there's this odd serendipity to it all, where things that are objectively not connected connect. And I'm warning you that this is happening now and it will continue to happen. And it's because of energy connecting. We're living now in a world in which there are great shifts in the electromagnetic field of the earth and great shifts that are happening within the electromagnetic expression of all the living beings on this planet. And it's not just you, and it's not just your group, it's not just your church or your synagogue or your mosque, it's not just your employer. It's not a matter of whether your employer is incorporated or unincorporated. What's going to matter is the values and how those values fit. So be prepared, because this is taking place in every venue, high and low. It is taking place at the very highest levels of the churches and synagogues and mosques and governments worldwide. It's taking place in the banks of all places. It's taking place at Wall Street. It's ripping through the Fortune 500 companies like a wildfire. Everywhere you look, this same sort of battle, if you can call it that, is happening. And it's all about what you give your attention to, what you believe in, what your values are, and the choices that you make. So be prepared that this is a time where I've asked you to kind of slow down, rest, relax, restore yourselves, give yourselves some time to think about things that you normally don't have time to think about, and be kind to yourself. Give yourself that extra little love that you otherwise bypass. Take that extra 15 minutes to soak in a hot bath. Pay attention a little bit more to what you're eating and how you're feeling, and whether you got enough exercise. Did you get quality time with your kids? Did you get quality time with your pets? Are you extracting some joy and meaning from your life? Okay. What dreams remain with you? What relationships are ringing true? Think about all this stuff now. You've got a little break space where you can kind of envision the world that you want to live in, the kind of life that you actually feel drawn to and which feels natural to you. Okay? Because we've had so many commercial corporations and so many marketing and management corporations busily defining our goals and our values for us, that basically we've been programmed to want things that objectively we don't want, to feel that we need things that we don't need, and to have needs and desires that aren't real. So part of the challenge of what we're all going through now is to define what's real for us. What do we need? What's true for us? Because it turns out that there is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all human or member of the family of mankind. We're all different. We all have different needs, different priorities, different requirements, different things that we yearn for, different parameters by which we live. What's that old saying about one man's trash is another man's treasure? And we've all seen it, right? Somebody has this old 1953 wreck of a Studebaker truck, and it's just sitting as a lawn ornament out on the back 40, and it means nothing to him. But someone else comes by and sees that and thinks that it's wonderful, and they want to buy it and restore it and, put endless hours in the shop on it. Okay? One man's trash is another man's treasure. And it's that way throughout every aspect of our lives. And I've often kind of preached the word in advance, is that your blessings aren't necessarily my blessings, right? My experience is that you can call it God, you can call it Source, you can call it the all-knowing, ever-expanding morphogenetic field. I don't care what you call it. But the presence that is aware of us creates our own individual, hand-tailored blessings. The things that we really need are constantly being provided. But because of all the distorted advertising and the subtle subliminal programming and the constant push of these commercial corporations, it's hard for us to discern the truth. You know, maybe what I really need is an elderly blue Honda that gets great gas mileage and never breaks down. And instead, I've got this programming level that's telling me, oh, you're nobody if you don't have a Lexus. I don't need a Lexus. Okay. But there's this little voice up here that has constantly prattled at me over the past 20 years, and all that bulk of advertising and all these other people who have been deluded by the advertising into thinking that they needed a Lexus, are going like this, right? Oh yeah, well, you need a Lexus. You have to have a Lexus. The truth is that I need this Honda. But there's a part of me that's been fooled into thinking it needs a Lexus. And I, as the great arbiter, have to have sense enough somewhere in my heart and soul to be honest and choose my blessing. And so, recognizing your blessings is a big part of success in the new world that we're entering. Not only is recognizing your own blessings as yours an important part for you, it's also important for everybody else, because if you don't recognize your blessings and latch on to somebody else's blessings, you're just putting a monkey wrench in the middle of everything, right? What if I go out and I'm so deluded by the messaging and the programming in the back of my head that I'm not aware of, right? I get the idea that, oh yeah, I have to have a Lexus. And so I go out and bust might and main to get a Lexus. And then I discovered that, I didn't really need or want a Lexus. What am I doing? I'm putting out all this money on this car and I don't really care about it. Well, at the same time, somebody else is, really in a situation and a mindset where they do need a Lexus. So I'm hanging on to their car and going without my own. The thing that would make me happy and fulfill my needs is being wasted while somebody else's blessing is being withheld. Hello? These are the struggles that we are now going to face in terms of courage and adherence to truth and discernment. Okay, there's the big D word, discernment. Being able to discern what's true and having the courage to act upon it. If you had to boil down all of these various challenges, all of these different things that are going to, pop up in your life like mushrooms in the springtime, it comes down to discernment of the truth and the courage to honor the truth. So as you're going about your business day to day, kind of focus in on the need for discernment and the need for courage. And as you make these decisions, it has a cumulative effect. I mean, if you start by choosing to act in alignment with your values and you adjust your goals to match your values, your life is going to accelerate because there won't be any friction in the middle and you'll just go straight to your goal, right? That in turn is going to accelerate other things happening in your life. Suddenly, you're going to be able to discern, if you're really looking and you want to do this right and you want to discern what's true, well, you're going to find that some very surprising things, actually. You're going to find out that this woman who's 50 pounds overweight and whose complexion isn't as nice as it used to be, and who has prediabetes and who suffers mood swings, is nonetheless the person that you love. And you don't want a new model. Okay? That's what discernment can give you, is to cut through all of the hype and the advertising and the Baywatch babes and all the rest of it, and really discern the truth about you and about what you need and what you value.
Okie dokie. The first question of the night is, hello, Grana. Can you please expand on the 3 days of darkness?
Well, what I wanted to get across to people is that when you hear that, you think of darkness that you're familiar with. You think about, the evening turns dark and the stars come out, and that's darkness, right? But in my experience and in many accounts of this kind of darkness, it's not like that. It is a very deep, almost obliterating darkness, as if you're in a room with all the lights off and there's no window. It's that dark. So it's exceedingly dark, and you're going to be in a situation that will be unfamiliar and it will feel alarming, and you won't know that this is the 3 days of darkness because it just happens. And there you are. I have told you that it's going to be sort of a super darkness, darker than any night you ever contemplated. And even sometimes, depending on where it happens, you may see that your body carries a phosphorescent glow to it that is visible in this darkness and is not normally visible. So this is your energy field kind of bumping up against the darkness that is being imposed. So if you see your body in a kind of enveloped in a light, well, then you'll know what's going on, and you'll be able to move around more freely and communicate with other people in the darkness. Now, this has happened before in human history. Unfortunately, the records that speak most clearly to it and give people the most information about it have all been lost. Isn't that convenient? So we don't know what causes it in terms of the physical phenomenon. We simply know that it happens, that it passes, and that it's harmless to us. So if you can keep that firmly in mind and not panic when this happens, that is best for you and best for everybody else concerned. So don't think that you know what 3 days of darkness means until you actually go back and study the scriptures more and think about it in terms of a very penetrating, very black form of darkness above and beyond the darkness provided every night in the evening, or any darkness that is provoked by storms or normal nighttime phenomenon. Shannon?
Okay, so you finished that one. Okay, someone asking for clarification. How will we know what day that is for the 3 days of darkness? There's such a deep darkness, day 1, day 2, day 3.
We don't know. And one of the really irritating parts is that it is so dark and our sensory grid is so shut down by this form of darkness that it's even difficult to be aware of the passage of time. So once you're within this phenomenon of the 3 days of darkness, it's not like you're going to be able to just glance at a clock and know automatically what day it is and all that stuff, which is very disorienting and potentially very difficult for some people to bear. So what I would suggest is that you pre-prepare your mental preparedness for your prospects and all those sorts of things. Expand them to account for a situation where normal light is not reacting as light normally does, okay? And you are not going to be able to move around and do all the things that you commonly do. So, having experienced this myself, it's a very strange experience, but just one of the keys to all of this is what the angel said: fear not. Okay? If you're in the darkness, you're safe. Fear not. If you have a sense of suddenly the earth just dropped away underneath you, as if you feel like you're free falling into a cavern or a valley, you've walked over the edge of the Grand Canyon, okay? These sorts of things can happen, but the important thing is to accept it. Don't fight it. Just go, oh, okay, this is the 3 days of darkness. Oh, okay, that is an earth energy conduit that I just happened to unlock. And so the more you resist these sorts of phenomenon, which are supposed to be for your benefit, they're not here to hurt you. They're not here to do anything but repair the earth and make transitions easier for you. So there's no reason to be frightened of the darkness. There's no reason to be frightened of this sense of immense energy flowing through you. As long as you're not fighting it, as long as you're going, okay, well, as long as you don't fight it, it won't fight you. And all the benefit of it will be delivered to the earth without any incident. So key to all of this is that when you experience these bizarre biblical kinds of phenomenon, just accept it and go with it and let it flow through you. Let the darkness surround you without freaking out. When you notice that, you see this faint glow around your hands, your fingers, you'll be able to see that there's a very definite glow surrounding every finger and every aspect of your face and everything. Okay, you can't normally see this glow because it's occurring in a spectrum of light that makes it invisible. But the darkness, the utter darkness of the 3 days of darkness, allows you to perceive light at other wavelengths and light of different kinds. So accept that. Just don't be weirded out by it. Don't be scared. Don't think that you're dead. Don't think that you're dying. You're just being exposed to a different set of, I guess you can call them grid parameters that allow you to see things that you don't normally see, that allow you to feel things that you don't normally feel. And none of it is meant as anything to harm you. So just kind of find your courage and kick back and relax and let all this happen. Let all of these sensory data points just flow through you, and don't worry. It'll get done, and then you'll be back to normal or something like normal. Be happy, keep focused on positive things. Don't be afraid. You know, if you see different things happening that are unusual, just keep your nerve and wait. You know, be patient, and the darkness will subside. The sense of falling will subside. The sense of a very high electrical current passing through you, that too will subside. And as long as you aren't resisting these occurrences and phenomenons, they should just bypass you and flow through you and over you and not harm you at all. So that's my message to you. And I hope that we all have a really blessed and peaceful and productive week and are not completely giving our attention away to such things as war in the Middle East and feckless politicians and politicized science and all of the evils that we encounter day by day, because if we give too much of our attention and focus to the evils, then the evils are empowered. And what we really need to do is keep our focus 90%, say, focused on things that we want to accomplish. Keep our attention on our government and what we're doing, and use that to produce the kinds of changes and results that we want, quite apart from all the drama that our employees are getting into. Okay, so focus on what you want, focus on your assembly process, focus on things that you can control, and let the rest ride. Okay? Everybody, go to your happy place. The Dark Knight is a satellite. And it's about 13 tons of satellite that is in orbit around our planet, that has always been there, and that, so far as we know, I mean, it's very archaic, and it's been there doing what it does for such a long time. Nobody knows its origin, at least nobody knows it in the government, and it is just now beginning to wake up. You may have seen it reported in the scientific news that numerous ancient pyramids all over the planet, spontaneously and at the exact same moment, had a burst of, they actually transmitted a burst of information of some kind. They transmitted, they pinged in radar terms. And this is the kind of thing that was already set up in advance, so that under certain circumstances, these ancient systems activate. And that's what's going on right now, is an activation. And the Dark Knight satellite is part of that activation. So that's what the Dark Knight is. And as for it being 3 days of darkness, well, I've already described the darkness. It's a darkness unlike what we think of being dark, at night when you go out and you look up at the stars. It's not like that. It's a pitchy black darkness. It's can hardly see 2 feet in front of your face darkness. And I do expect that to occur just as a natural event, given the circumstance and processes that we're engaged in. It's like the Yule tide. For 3 days, the ocean stops the tides. Did you know that? That's what the Yule tide actually is. And at one particular point in the cycle of the whole year, the oceans stop having tides. You have 3 days in which there are no tides. And that's called the Yule tide. Where, as kids, we were taught to think Yule tide meant the time of Christmas, right? No, it's talking about an actual tide and the time of the year that tide occurs. So the 3 days of darkness are predictable in the same way, given particular cosmological processes. So yes, there will be 3 days of darkness. And you should just be calm and expect this and be prepared to hunker down and think good thoughts and not go completely stark raving mad with fear, because this is coming. You've been told. And, hopefully you have enough food and water and everything set aside to last 3 days without having to go out into the streets and can just sit it out at home. That's what you're meant to do during the 3 days of darkness, is to draw your curtains and shut your doors and stay quiet and wait it out.
Fear not the one that can kill your body, but the spirit. So when I bring up a falling angel, when you die, okay, Father, I commend my spirit to you, right? So what happens when you die? You fall into yourself. So crucified, died, and went to hell. I fell into myself down at the park. And now I'm in hell. But now I create hell into being heaven. I remember everything. I remember every death. I remember every time I've been here. 3,000 years, 3 days in hell. 3 lives lived right now as you see me right now. I lived, died, 4 times. Okay, 4,000 year plan of God. Okay, resurrection is nothing new. It's only new for each timeline. Resurrection is only new for each timeline that we go on. And if you choose to wage war and you run away from death, you're a falling angel, time traveling, running from death, going from timeline to timeline, being the chosen ones. Okay, you're rich, you're famous. These are all the rich people on the world stage and whatnot, spending all their money. Yeah, leaving all the little people behind. Okay, these are So now they know this is what the Bible speaks about, the appointed time that the demons know is coming. They know that they can't run anymore. Okay? So the people that got left behind, the children, okay, the animals that got left behind, all the times that the people ran like cowards, like waging war on each other, you left the animals behind. That's why Noah, gather all the animals. Here's what they were doing. That's how this works. Every last bit of it. So you are abandoning the animals. You're abandoning the children. So now, because you want to do that, the demons know, oh my goodness, God's going to cut us down. And he's going to take all the children and all the people that should and earn the right to be saved to another timeline and plant Adam and Eve's in all of these spaghettis. Now you have the Adam and Eve story. Now you have the Bible story written in all of these spaghettis based on your once in a lifetime opportunity to get it right. Should I keep going? Are you ready for this truth? Because if you keep entertaining the world stage, if you keep entertaining the alien talk, the Enoch talk, all the garbage talk, the Sean Ryans having this person on, that person on, you're only entertaining you, waging war on yourself, waging war on the world, and then you are going to end up running because you are speaking on things that you don't have any clue what you're speaking on. Now you're waging war on other people around you in your life instead of just saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to repent. I'm going to repent. Here's my palms to the sky, psalms to the sky. I repent. I give up everything. I surrender my will to you, Father, all of it. Because you know that in this thing of spaghetti is your life beyond your life. And if the spirit is cut out of you now, there's no life beyond life. There's no other spaghettis for you. So resurrection, is it truly something new? Or can we finally get back to life, the way life is meant to be lived? Because The Simpsons showing Donald Trump having a mask taken off, saying these are the aliens, that's about to happen. And you're all going to be witnesses to Satan finally falling and the light finally rising. And when the world stage is lit up, meaning the light finally is able to say, here, this is the truth, the way, and the life. We are now going to show you everything, but we're going to show you everything for 30 seconds, but 30 seconds is like 10 days, whatever. Okay? And then we're just going to black out everything. We're just going to shut down your phones. We're going to shut down the internet. We're going to shut down the TVs, this and that, because it's time to move God. And when it's time to move God and take God to where he belongs, along with Enoch and Lucifer and my real family, and I don't mean Lucifer as in Lucifer, as you know, the upside down Lucifer. I'm talking about the angel in heaven where he belongs, Lucifer.